Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice and making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement. You're live and local, St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Jeff Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services. Our offices are located in beautiful, quickly warming downtown Olivet, Missouri. I am a 40-plus year veteran of the financial services area, a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager. And I'm joined by my very favorite, oldest, prodigal daughter, who is now currently in Florida, Aaron Lapidus, who also is a fee-based financial planner and wealth manager.
Look who's on vacation now. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan that has several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate. Second is to deliver a reliable stream of income, one that they can count on, so they can do all the things they like to do during retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to complement their Medicare benefits. And
then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches or charities, whoever it might be, with Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as their wealth managers, Aaron and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Babe, good morning.
Good morning.
Another wonderful day in the neighborhood. Saturday, my favorite day of the week. We get to spend 2 hours with you here on the radio. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877 or 84126 from the DAG-controlled text line for the morning. And you know, honey, I just wanted to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice to be sitting in my chair again. I'm really used to it. You know, it's just wonderful. And you know, the guys.
You could do this. I could go off, enjoy the beach, while you enjoy the chair there.
See ya. You're going to have a fun day. It was kind of nice. Aaron had some time off this week. I took a little time. We all took a little family time last weekend for a wedding, my younger daughter. And Aaron is having a little fun. I hope you have fun this afternoon because you'll be back to work Monday morning.
That's right.
Exactly. And again, we do want to thank everybody for tuning into our show this morning. We are live and local. We just gave out the number. We'd love to hear from you again, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And as a reminder, all of our clients, they're folks that are like you. They're our listeners. They're over 55. They would like to retire or they're already retired. And as Aaron mentioned, we create a game plan for them that has the goals of achieving a fun, financially secure, hopefully worry-free retirement. And before we do get into our programming for the day, we do want to remind you that there are several ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. The best way is to log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. In the upper right-hand corner, you can click on the Contact Us button and send us an email, a question, a request for a coaching session, financial or medical. There will also be a pop-up box that appears in the lower left-hand side of the screen that says Sign Up, and you can sign up for our monthly newsletter. And as it is April 2nd, we have a brand new newsletter.
Woohoo! So give us our 4 topics, would you, babe?
First topic is we've moved towards infographics for the first article of our newsletter, and it's titled, Where Are the Workers? So This is pretty timely. As of yesterday, the government released its new employment numbers. I guess the economy added about 430,000 jobs last month. But this article focuses on where are all of the workers, because as we hear so frequently in the news that although unemployment is very low, businesses are still looking to employ individuals. We see help wanted signs everywhere. So talking about what has changed between the pandemic and now in terms of the labor force.
Yeah, and I would add to that we're also seeing many companies saying, time to get back in the office, right?
That's also true. The article in our newsletter points out that, although we may see a decrease in the number of individuals wanting to enter the workforce, technology can sometimes make up that difference, and that's also something that remote work has been able to achieve through technology. So it all fits together.
Cool.
The second article is a hot topic of conversation: working while receiving Social Security benefits. So this explains the earnings test that you would want to essentially give yourself to see if you would be subject to that take back based on your age and when you begin to collect your Social Security benefit, and also how much earned income you have. So Social Security is not concerned with income distributions from your retirement plan accounts, nor does it take into consideration passive income. For example, if you if you happen to own rental properties and you collect rent, or if you are someone living off of dividend and interest from stocks or bonds, those pieces of your income are not calculated into the means test. However, any earned income will be.
Wages.
Exactly.
And that's something, and that's an area of confusion with folks as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about, I think, a couple of rock stars that we visited this week that had some decisions to make in that specific area.
And the last article, we thought we'd have a little fun: baseball lessons that might help change your retirement, might help change up your finances. So this kind of this does a comparison, a little comparison between baseball terminology and your finances.
Well, that's fun. That's great. And so I was going to say, we call it the Coach's Corner, easy to access. Just go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on that Coach's Corner newsletter icon in the bottom left-hand corner, or I think it shows up on every single page as you're going through our site, which is great. Just send us your information. Erin and her staff do keep the last 6 to 12 months of those archived for your viewing, printing, or downloading convenience, which is great. And I guess because I'm staring at the text line, nobody's texted in yet this morning, but I do want to give us our number, 84126, or if you want to call in live, because the boss is in the house, 931-5877. And also being very comfortable in my favorite chair. Tim's smiling. He's going, yeah. The world's right, Tim? I'm staring him straight in the eye. It's all good. Eric's by the phone ready to take our calls. Again, at 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line.
We'll see what the listeners have to say about all of that.
Amen. I did want to, before we get into our topics for today, and we really want to go through, I think for this first hour, a coaching session we recently had with a couple of rock stars. They didn't know they were rock stars when they came in, but they were when they left, was Jerry and Joni. I wanted to talk a little bit about inflation. And not to get too technical here, but, inflation tends to reduce your purchasing power. Dollars don't go as far. You may get angst, as at least I do, going to the pump, seeing gas prices are up, milk prices are up, prices at restaurants are up. But I think what's interesting is we're not seeing clients at this moment. At least I haven't received any calls yet. Maybe you'll enlighten us if you have, but are asking for raises.
We started, Dad, you and I started discussing inflation, I think it was almost 8 months ago, what the impact would be, how long it would last, how we would change our portfolio positioning. And I thought you made the best point that no one's made so far, is that people make choices in regards to inflation. When things become more expensive, and this could be inflated prices in a very specified way, or like we're all experiencing now, where it tends to feel like inflation is touching us not just at the grocery store, but like you said, at the gas pump, through vacations, when you want to travel, things like that. People make choices, which means you walk into the grocery store and you see that bacon is up 35%. Well, maybe you decide that paying $8 a pound for bacon is not going to happen, so you buy a different breakfast meat. And I think that happens on that's a funny, smaller example, but it happens on a much larger scale for people. You make choices about how you're going to spend your money. You just don't continue to spend exactly the same way you did, only to spend 8 to 10% more.
You know, it's interesting because as I mature, that's what people say when they're almost 65 for aging, okay? But as I mature, I find that certain things, what's the nicest way I can put it? They bother me, okay? And my staff will tell you, sort of the other day, it's fortunate, well, my weight doesn't show up, but I live very close to the Golden Arches. I won't use their name. And love to go there and have breakfast because typically I thought it was very economical compared to sitting down in a restaurant. And I sometimes do that for lunch because it's very nearby. But I pulled through the checkout line the other day, and it was $9.17 for a Big Mac meal. My problem was that I was wedged in between two cars, and I couldn't jump out of line because I was just incensed. I just said, there's just no way this makes any sense to me, and so now I'm officially the Golden Arches until they get a little bit more sensible. And I think people, you're right, babe, people do make choices, whether it's, am I ordering soda in a restaurant anymore because it's $3 a cup, or do I actually have coffee with my breakfast when I'm out? Do I order that, the large French fries, or do I go to normal French fries? We all do make exchanges. And I think what's interesting is that, I mean, I don't think we've seen or had a single phone call yet with folks saying, we need you to raise our monthly income. And I believe that this really goes back to the way that we do our planning. A little different than you read in the literature, or you're seeing online, or you're going to the calculators. We believe that if we can fund to 100% of our clients' after-tax expenses, as they're making these exchanges, what happens is that they have all the income they need. And really, we've seen this, and I can say without any hesitation that, and Aaron, you can say it, as I think as well, you've been with me and watching this for over 8 years, nobody asked for a raise. I mean, by funding to what their true spending is, not as a percentage of income, et cetera, it just seems to work better.
Right, and we also add some buffers in. For example, we don't take into account the cost that it is to go to work. You have additional gas expenses. Most people eat out more frequently when they are going to the office. There are Girl Scout cookies and holiday wrapping paper and things like that to buy. We don't account for that amount of money because our thought is that it will be replaced. Okay, so you don't go out to eat lunch with your coworkers. Maybe you're going out to eat less frequently, but with friends, your spouse, or your former coworkers. You're not driving as much to work, but maybe you'll pick up a hobby that's going to take you out of the house, or that money just gets reabsorbed back into your budget in other ways. So we are able to create some buffers there that I think have helped to account for if we see some increased expenses like at the pump or at the grocery store.
Yeah, that is very good. And again, many people make these exchanges either consciously or unconsciously. And frankly, I think we do both, which is very good. Before we get into our subject for our primary topic for the first hour, I'm going to try to actually read the text line, honey. It's the double one, so I'm not as smart as you are on this thing. But we just received one. We're cashing in double E bonds that are maturing now. We've never been able to capitalize these funds when our daughters were in college years ago. what is your opinion on us buying I bonds with these funds? I've heard these I bonds offer a hedge on inflation. Well, I bonds are inflation-adjusted bonds. And what happens is that as the CPI index increases, those bonds are, the face value of those bonds are indexed for inflation. If you were going to buy I bonds, hopefully you've done them recently. If you're considering doing so, that's fine. But the yields on bonds are really primarily based upon interest rates going down and that coupon rate that you have becoming more valuable. So purchasing I bonds right now while we're in the middle of inflation, it's not as good of a hedge as it may have been 6 to 8 months ago if you had started that at the beginning.
Also, depending upon the means in which you're purchasing those I bonds, you may have liquidity restrictions and also purchasing restrictions.
Yes, and when we're purchasing any types of bonds in our practice, we usually use bond funds because they're more liquid. There's a little more flexibility. And what we're doing is we're really banking on the professional managers managing those maturity dates and those yields in the best way. There's a price to do that, but guess what? There's a price for any type of professional management, which is great. Again, our phone lines are open, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line, which is great. So, babe, why don't we get into our first topic today? And this is a coaching session which we recently had with Jerry and Joni, the rock stars. Woo-hoo. Love that.
That's right. Jerry is 66 and an engineer about to retire from a major airplane manufacturing corporation in St. Louis. He has a monthly pension benefit of $3,400 a month and decided to take that 100% joint and survivor benefit for his wife, Joni. Or he has a lump sum option of $680,000. He also was lucky enough to have a 401k plan, which he saved $1.4 million.
Good saver. Plus, he had a good company that was making contributions for him.
Absolutely. So he has a savings of about $50,000 in the vault, and that brings him to a total of about $1.5 million of liquid investable assets if we put that lump sum pension amount to the side.
Yes. And his spouse, Joni, she's a few years younger. She's 62. She had worked part-time while the kids were growing up. But she's recently retired and retained the position for the last 10 years of what I like to call Chief Operating Officer of the household. And during that time, they've been making Roth contributions for her, and her Roth IRA is up to a bulging, fabulous $160,000. So these folks are fortunate. They have cash flow and they have capital. And when we sat down with them, as we do with all clients, we're really not looking at just a game plan for income flow for them in retirement. We're really looking at 5 game plans, right, babe?
Right. First, of course, we're looking at income planning in retirement. That's one type of game plan. We're also looking at Social Security planning, long-term care planning. So Social Security planning being when both spouses are alive or if one happens to predecease the other. Long-term care, if things don't go exactly the way we planned in their later years and someone becomes ill, we want to make sure that we're planning for that. Then also estate planning is important. So what happens after both spouses have passed away? How do they want to pass those assets on? Yes,
and certainly, in the retirement income planning phase, we're not talking about income while they're both around, but what if one spouse predeceases the other? That's important. So let's talk a little bit about their situation. After a discussion reviewing the information they brought us, we found that they needed about $6,000 a month after taxes. And they didn't have a mortgage, which sort of was the first clue to say, woohoo, you're a rock star. We always gross that up by 20% for federal and state income taxes. So their gross cash flow need each month was about $7,200. Jerry's Social Security was going to be $2,900 at his normal retirement age, which was approximately 6 months from now. And Mary's, her normal benefit was going to be...
Mary, did he pick up another spouse? I thought her name was Joni.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Joni. It's probably his, either Mary's
That's
sister.
his girlfriend or something.
Exactly. So with Joni, her Social Security benefit was significantly less because she had worked less number of years. But under a spousal option, we determined that she would be able to be eligible for about $1,450 per month, right?
Right, and that's also continued. So the spousal benefit is 50% of your spouse's benefit. However, just like with all Social Security benefits, the dollar amount that you receive is completely hinged upon the individual who is filing's age. So, for example, Joni at her full retirement age will be eligible to take the full spousal benefit, which is 50%. However, every year that Joni is under her normal retirement age, that 50% will be reduced by 8% to account for the fact that she is under her normal retirement age.
Yes, and also under the new rules, for her to actually access this, Jerry has to be taking his, right?
That's right. So no longer are individuals able to do what was called file and suspend, where one spouse could file for their benefits, immediately suspend them, meaning that they're not receiving their benefits, but that used to open up the door for a spouse to claim off of those benefits. I think we're up to about 5 years now ago, Congress discontinued that option.
Yeah, so it's interesting is what we like to do is we like to start from the end, which basically is when all the faucets are turned on. And what I mean by that is that Jerry's taking his pension. Social Security, if he's deciding to do that, Joni is also eligible for Social Security. So what we're really talking about is several years in the future. If we do that and discounting, putting aside Jerry's pension benefit for the moment, they need $7,200. Between the two of them, they're going to have approximately $4,350 of Social Security benefits, and therefore they're going to be short about $2,850 per month, which is around $33,000 per year. They did mention to us, though, that they had three priorities, right? One was they wanted a steady income stream for both of them while they were alive. Secondarily, they also wanted to make sure that there was a significant and sufficient survivor income stream after the first death, whether it was Joni or Jerry. And they would like to pass on whatever they can to their children and grandchildren. So let's talk a little bit more about the math, babe.
Okay, so where would you like to start with that?
Well, we know that they need $2,850 per month in terms of an income benefit, right?
That's right. So that's about $34,000 per year.
And therefore, the capital that they would require is, I like to call it the milk money. To create that cash flow, we divide that number by 4%. That gives us approximately
$800.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
$855,000 a year, which is incredible because Jerry has that inside of his 401k.
Exactly. Not even taking into account Joni's Roth, which is cool.
Right. So
if Jerry elects to take his pension, at this point, they're going to have more cash flow than they need because his pension benefit was I believe it was running in the area of about $3,400 a month. They also will have sufficient income for the survivor after the first death. We know that. But again, they're not passing that. If they do that, they're not going to be passing that pension asset of $680,000 to their kids or to their grandkids. So naturally, for us, our thoughts are we have three of them, right?
Right. The first thought is, what is the sequence of us turning on this income, and which income should we turn on? So, for example, when do we elect our Social Security benefits, but also when we focus on that pension amount, does it make sense to take the pension versus taking the lump sum? Right.
And then the real question is that if the pension amount is too large, which frankly it is at this point to meet their needs, do we recreate a pension for them that fits their cash flow better. And what do we do with Roth? Roth is interesting because it's this war chest of cash that's income tax free. They've already paid the pain, or you would say the income tax to do that. Are we going to retain these for estate planning purposes, i.e. passing them on to their loved ones, or are we going to use them for maybe future capital expenditures? All that stuff.
Or a little bit of both.
Yes.
Which is also a possibility.
All that's kind of up in the air. And so I think what we're going to do is take our first break of the hour here, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about not only the retirement income planning phase, but also there are discussions and maybe there are possible decisions about Social Security benefits and other things. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is David Sherwood of Sherwood's Forest, the Inside Out Show's tree guy. You may have heard the name Fertilome. They've been around for nearly 50 years, and they offer a wide variety of fertilizers, weed prevention, weed killers, plant foods, and much more. You won't find Fertilome in the big box stores. You'll find it at your local nursery and garden centers. Fertilome won't force you into a multi-step fertilizer program. Their classic lawn food has slow-release nitrogen and trace micronutrients that will help your lawn grow greener and healthier throughout the season. I've met with the folks at Fertilome, and we stock it at Sherwood's Forest. I'm convinced they can help your lawn, garden, and plants grow into something to be proud of. To find a Fertilome dealer near you, just go to Fertilome.com and click on the Find a Dealer link and enter your zip code to find a garden center that stocks the Fertilome product that's right for your needs, including their natural expanded product offerings. That's Fertilome.com.
I'm Jennifer Blome. Did you know that all the funding for the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center comes from sales at the 5 local Salvation Army family thrift stores and the Vehicle Donation Program? Salvation Army receives no government funding, and the men are not charged for the 6-month residential rehab work therapy program. With your donations and shopping at the stores, you're supporting those who are trying to rebuild their lives. Visit satruck.org for more information. That is satruck.org.
Want your home to make a statement? Want to maximize your biggest investment? Update your home with lighting from Metro Lighting. Whether you're lighting your entire dream home or just want a new table lamp, the certified lighting specialists at Metro Lighting are trained to help you find the perfect lighting for your space and are dedicated to your satisfaction. No matter what your project or budget, stop by any of the 6 Metro Lighting locations and shop our beautiful selection of lighting at the guaranteed best price. Visit MetroLightingCenters.com for the location nearest you.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
That's right. We're back here on the Big 550 KTRS. Talk Radio St. Louis. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach, joined by my
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
The mouth that roared, as I like to call her, and we're ready, willing, able, and wanting. Oh, by the way, honey, there was a vote while we were during our break, and I didn't put any.
That sounds unlikely. It sounds very unlikely.
I really didn't put any pressure on our boys here, but they looked at me and said, "Jeff, you read that text, even though it was a double one, really well. Erin is out." And I thought,
that sounds so unlikely.
Well, honey, it really did happen, but I also mentioned to them that if you were here in person, they'd cave. So we'll have to have a debate later. Anyways, we are back on the Big 550. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And be easy.
I think all the listeners are super excited to know that you can read.
Well, thank you. Very good. If not, I have you. But we do have Michael that's been holding through the break, and I believe he has a question about Roth IRAs. Michael, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, very, very comforting to know you can read if you're going to handle my finances. I mean, it's a big comfort.
That's what I was thinking, Michael.
I'm good. I'm good with things that have green backings on them.
Hey, real quick, my wife and I have run into an inheritance, and we have structured our retirement thus. I'm 8 years older than my wife. We focused everything into her 401k. She has a pension, a very good pension, and so everything's been focused that direction. I'm 67 and already collecting my Social Security. So with this money, one of the thoughts that we had was to open up a Roth for her with this found money. And I was wondering, can I do anything like that with myself at age 67 as well as her? We want to maximize, she's 60, we want to maximize the Roth for her for as long as we can do it. And I'm sorry to call you so late, but, we want to get 2021s in and 2022s in probably at the same time, just so it's covered. And I don't know what that maximum amount is this year, and unless you have another idea of direction we should go.
Babe, why don't you take that?
Okay, well, first, I believe you mentioned that your wife has a pension. Do either of you have any earned income for either last year or this year, meaning any wages?
Absolutely. I don't. She does. She's still working. She plans to work till 67.
Okay, fabulous. Well, that means that you would be eligible to do Roth contributions for, is she currently contributing to a retirement plan at work?
Yes, 401k.
Is she maximizing that contribution?
Yes.
Are you guys over $180,000 of income?
No.
Okay, well then the answer is you can do both, right, babe?
That's right. Right. After all of those questions, we get to the same answer, which is as long as you make your Roth contributions for 2021 before April 15th, you're both eligible to make that $7,000 per person Roth contribution. Hers would be a Roth. Yours would be the spousal Roth, but you don't have to open up a separate account for yourself if you already have a Roth in creation. And then you can also do, again, for this upcoming year, another $7,000 per person.
Yes, and the only caveat here is that you need to make the 2021 contribution for your Roth before you file your tax return. If you've already
throw a little wrinkle into this, I forgot to mention, I have a minor amount in a regular IRA. Because like I said, everything was focused at my wife because I'm 8 years older. I'm supposed to die first, all this kind of stuff. So we did it that way, and there's only so much we could do. Later in life, as I retired, she had the big income. But I have about 25,000 in a regular IRA, and it's of course gone down in value. So I was thinking maybe this is a good time to convert that to a Roth because my earnings on that have been lower, so my taxes hopefully would be lower than what it was 10 months ago, a year ago, and convert that to a Roth, add 7,000, then another 7,000. Is that possible?
Yeah, we're looking at two different things here, but I would suggest that.
I like the idea of the Roth contributions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sold on the Roth conversion piece.
Thank you, babe. I don't disagree with you on that. Why pay taxes on money you're not going to consume? I know that beginning at 72, you'll have to begin to make required minimum distribution from that IRA, which will be very small. There'll be about $800, and if you have 20,000, 4%, $800. I mean, I wouldn't go through it unless you love your children so much that you don't want them to get any taxable IRAs.
Or the other alternative would be I don't think it's necessary to do it in this moment because you're still in your higher income earning years. You just mentioned that your wife is a high income earner. You're in a higher tax bracket right now. If when your wife retires, you decide, you just got to do the Roth conversion, maybe then's the time to look at it because as opposed to paying 15 to 20% on the conversion on that 20,000. Now you might be able to drop it down to the 10%. However, like my dad just mentioned, 4% is better than all of those numbers, which is which is how much you would be required to take out of the IRA when you get to 72.
Very good. Very great questions, Michael. And again, what we're talking about here is no wrong decisions, but taking advantage of those contributions that you can make, especially in your situation as well as other folks that are listening, are really based upon A, do you have at least one actively working spouse? B, is someone covered by a qualified plan at work? And then C, where are you at in terms of the income limits? So very good discussion, and we do appreciate your calling. And, Michael sounded pretty good for a kept man, right?
He sounded pretty happy, and this still just shocks me, all of the ladies that are allowing their husbands to retire, gallivant around, and then they're still stuck going to work. Well,
I think Michael realized that his wife had a big brain. Why let it go to waste, right?
That sounds like when I hear my fiance say, "Oh, but you turn the oven on so much better than I do."
Well, he's learning quickly. Well, good. Let's and again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 931-5877 or 84126 from the Dado control text line this morning. We were in our last previous discussion before our break. We were talking about Jerry and Joni, a couple of rock stars, nice income flows. They need a little cash flow help. Question was, we were talking about was turning on faucets. Do we take that? Question number one was, do we take that pension that's available, either $3,400 a month under joint survivor, or does it make more sense to do the lump sum? There are a lot of factors that I'll call them non-economic factors that really come into this decision. And the truth is that there's no wrong ones, really. A lot of times it's called where's your comfort zone, right? One of them certainly is your comfort zone, right? Do I sleep better at night knowing that I'm going to have that pension coming in, even if it's more than I need? Do I do that? What's another factor, babe? What do you think?
Well, another factor would be a consideration that Jerry and Joni both had, which is how much do they want the opportunity to pass on to their children or grandchildren, and how large of an asset would you like the opportunity to pass on? If you elect that pension benefit, once Joni or Jerry, whomever passes away second, leaves us, that pension amount is gone. However, if you are looking towards the lump sum, you do have to take on the responsibility of creating the income stream from that money. However, you do also open up the opportunity to pass on some, all, or a greater value of that lump sum, depending upon how you've managed it over time.
Certainly. And in their particular case, in terms of turning on and off faucets, Jerry is a little short of his normal retirement age. Obviously, Joni is also short of hers. So we know that at the very beginning, if they decide not to take that pension as a lump sum, we're going to have to provide them with some cash flow to get them to A, the first level, which is Jerry's Social Security benefit, and then B, the second level, which is Joni's. And I think what's kind of cool in their where they are today is they did have an option where, and I discussed this a little bit earlier, which was maybe they push it back even further. Okay, maybe Jerry says, you know what, if I don't take that pension benefit, I'm going to take the lump sum. If I want to make sure that Joni has a little bit more income, maybe what I do is push off my Social Security benefit till 70. We don't have that happen very often, but in their particular case, they have so much in assets. They're so deep into Rockstarville, as I like to think about it, right? Is that this might be something for them to consider.
Right. It just gives them the option to make that Social Security election when they're comfortable versus it being an absolute requirement in order to make their numbers work.
Yes. No question about that. So that's kind of good. So those are a couple of the game plans we're talking about. We also naturally take a look at long-term care planning. What happens if someone becomes ill chronically? How's that going to affect the living and the lifestyle of not only that spouse, but also the non-institutionalized spouse? In their particular case, I like to use a number of approximately $9,000 to $10,000 a month, right? Which is the cost of maintaining the lifestyle of the non-institutionalized spouse. Usually between $2,000 and $3,000. In their case, because they have no mortgage, woohoo, they're in a very good place. And then the balance of that, obviously, for the institutionalized spouse.
And I think the listeners might be wondering, how do we go from $6,000 down to $2,000 to $3,000 a month, and for the non-institutionalized spouse? And it's important to keep in mind that your living situation once someone becomes chronically ill, whether they are institutionalized or you're having individuals come into the home to assist with caregiving. All of the lifestyle expenses that Jerry and Joni were enjoying when they were both healthy and able to are going to fall away. Someone is going to become either the primary or the secondary caregiver, or they're going to be going back and forth from the facility on a regular basis, and no longer are they taking those trips together. Probably going out to eat is going to be far less frequent, going out to movies, things like that. All of those things are going to fall away, and it's really going to become the non-institutionalized spouse. Our primary goal is, one, to keep the electricity on in the house. Luckily, Jerry and Joni don't have a mortgage that we'll need to contend with. And then we'll also want to make sure that that they are able to, continue to eat and maintain a portion of that lifestyle that they had.
And, as we look at their situation, and we do this a little bit, even though we are insurance agents, we do look at this a little differently. We know that those cash flows that they're receiving, whether it's Social Security benefits or pensions or income benefits that we're creating for them as their advisors, they're not going to stop when somebody gets ill. And in their particular case, we know that we're looking at about $7,200 of income flowing right away. They still had a significant amount of other assets which could be used to generate income to cover up that, to get them up to the $9,000 level. So in their case, it was, well, do we self-fund it, or do we attempt to buy insurance to fund it, or do we look at premium other alternatives that are non-premium based to do that?
Right. The great thing about the financial industry is insurance companies, financial institutions are always improving the product choices available to meet the needs of not only of long-term care, of individuals looking for long-term care, rather. So originally, I believe that they were called nursing home policies, became popular, where you were only receiving funds from a policy that you paid a premium on if you or your spouse was admitted to a nursing home. Now they have what are called comprehensive policies, where you pay a monthly premium or annual premium, and in exchange, if you meet the qualifications, which would be losing 2 activities of daily living, those are things like getting up and out of a chair, being able to bathe and dress yourself, things like that. You'll be able to receive an income stream either at home, in a skilled nursing facility, which means that you have 24-hour nursing care, or assisted living, which means a nurse is available, but not necessarily are you in need of 24-hour care.
Yes.
And then the policies were also expanded to include self-funding, which means, you use either a life insurance product or an annuity product that has a long-term care benefit included. And essentially you're using the majority of your funds that you contributed to this product first, which in many cases makes the underwriting less restrictive and also gives people the opportunity who say, I pay a lot of premiums in my life already. Maybe this is one I don't want to pay a premium on, but I still want to create some protection for my portfolio.
Yes, and these are options that they're newer, and we're also looking at them as well. Packaging sometimes makes sense, and sometimes that it doesn't. Again, the underwriting on these contracts, if that's the way you want to go, it's tough these days. Most folks don't qualify. But so those were a couple of things that we were looking at. We do know that we still want to discuss the estate planning aspects as well as the healthcare aspects for Jim and Joni, but we'll do that after our last break of the hour. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T.
Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The all things Basement T experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry up that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
If you're concerned about the health of your trees, you need to talk to the Davey Tree Expert Company. These people love trees. They have a passion for keeping trees healthy. Their certified arborists provide personalized care for your trees. They're trained in the latest technologies for safe and accurate pruning and provide reliable preventative measures for diseases and invasive insects. Call Davey Tree at 314-961-5440 or see their website at Davey, spelled DAVEY.com.
Attention homeowners, if you're selling, I'm buying. This is Mike Robinson, Robank Properties, and I'm not like the other people you hear on the radio. They make offers loaded with contingencies like, I think I need my partner to see it, or we will need an inspection, or whatever. I call that monkey business. You want an offer straight up? Call me, Mike Robinson, Robank Properties, 314-283-0867. That's Robank Properties, 314-283-0867. 314-283-0867, or visit us online at robankproperties.com.
This is Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 9:52 here on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
And our producer, Eric, is willing, waiting, and wanting to get your phone calls at 931-5877. Or you can text me, 84126. Honey, I think somebody was trying to test me.
Test you even?
On the texting, yes. I received text messages. WeMon, W-E-M-O-N, live longer. They should work longer. Woman hater. What good is that?
Women live longer, so they should work longer.
Yeah, I knew you'd love it, but it was typed WeMon. So the E and the O were switched. I guess it might be, an Ewok adventure or something. I have no idea. But
wow.
In either case, we're willing, waiting, and we're wanting to answer your questions at 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. I think what we're going to do is save the healthcare segment, but we do have about 7 minutes left, which is kind of fun. Let's get into the fun part, which is the estate planning side. We know that the laws have changed, and that Jerry, and Joni do have some decisions to make in regard to this massively large IRAs, which they'll be passing on through the show. We know that Jerry's was about $1.5 million. And Joni's had $160,000 Roth. Woo-hoo. So, honey, why don't you describe a little bit of the difference about what are some of the issues they're doing and how the law really changed recently?
Well, so in the past, non-spousal beneficiaries of IRA assets, and this is both traditional IRA and Roth IRA assets, had three choices. They could take all of the money out at one time and pay the taxes if it was applicable. For example, in a traditional IRA, they could take that money out over a 5-year period or they could stretch those distributions out over the course of their lives using their age, not the individual that they inherited the money from. Unfortunately, the government has eliminated that third option. So if you are the non-spousal beneficiary of an IRA, you essentially have to liquidate that IRA within 10 years. That's true of a traditional IRA and also a Roth. Now, the difference between those two is that the Roth IRA assets, although they must come out of the Roth account, they're not going to be taxable to the beneficiary. However, every dollar of the traditional IRA assets will be taxable. So that could be a large burden for Jerry and Joni have 3 children. So to divide $1.5 million over for 3 children, that could be a relatively large tax burden for each of them. Basically, $500,000 over 10 years each would be $50,000 per year.
Yes,
per child.
And they also do have 2 grandchildren. So should they consider making their grandchildren contingent beneficiaries along with their children? One thing that we haven't discussed is, which can really change the situation, is what if one of these children or grandchildren was a special needs? Would we then really have to set aside capital for them very specifically? And this is a fun one that I've had a lot of fun discussions with clients about, which is their grandchildren. You know, the Jerry and Joni have 3 children, but only 2 grandchildren, which means either 2 of them don't have children, or etc. So, how are the grandchildren treated? Are they treated as a separate class, or are they treated as just a part of that individual family tree?
Well, I mean, I guess to make that a little bit more clear, if each child receives $500,000, that would leave nothing for the 2 grandchildren, except for, if each of those children were connected to one parent, eventually that money would filter down to those grandchildren via their parents having passed away. Or do Jerry and Joni consider they have 5 beneficiaries available, 3 children and 2 grandchildren? Are they going to split things equally? And how would they split that money? We might talk to them about, although we haven't brought this into the fold yet, we've strictly focused on those IRA assets. We know that Jerry and Joni no longer have a mortgage on their home, so that means that is an asset that would receive a step up in basis for a beneficiary, making that not taxable, making the proceeds from that house not taxable as long as they didn't exceed the fair market value at the date of Jerry and Joni's death, and just as well as those Roth IRA assets that aren't taxable. Do we balance the estate in another way that might make things more tax efficient?
Yeah, and I think all parents, and I know that your mom and I have had this discussion, which you're aware of, I think, honey, or probably actually not aware of, is everything equal? I at least have come to the conclusion that all children are not equal. They take different paths.
I have concluded that as well.
Thank you. They have, I don't want to say one is smarter than another one. They're both very intelligent, but they've taken and they've directed their skills in different ways. Some people are more philanthropic. Some kids are higher income earners. Are things really equal? And I would tell you that they're not. And obviously with inheritances, and you can probably, if you're a grandparent, I forgot to tell you that, we were having this conversation. They looked at me, they go, "You're not really going to hate us, are you?" I said, "No, I like you. I don't know anything about your grandkids, so I'm not going to be hating on you at this particular moment, but give me some time." Okay. It just, do you have to be equal? I mean, and I think this is something that everybody has to wrestle with. And the truth is that the conclusions that you make are exclusively yours. And as folks have mentioned to me, maybe, is that, if we're both gone and the kids are up there looking down and we're looking down at the kids and they're cursing us, what do we care? The truth is that our wishes are going to be fulfilled in the way that we think makes the most sense. I don't disagree with that. Looks like we've got to take our last break of this hour to roll into hour number 2 on Straight Talk on Retirement. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back for hour 2 after these messages.
The home of McGraw-Millhaven.
Wait, there's more?
KTRS AM, FM 1061, K291CW St. Louis.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. About 100,000 people remain trapped in Mariupol, Ukraine, amid Russia's ongoing assault on the city. ABC's Terry Moran in Lviv says the country's leaders are asking for more help.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, in an interview with Fox News, renewed his demand for tanks and aircraft to change the dynamic on the battlefields and then at the bargaining table.
Powerful weapons are needed to Ukrainians, heavy weapons.
The New York Times reports that the Biden administration will work with U.S. allies to send Soviet-era tanks to bolster Ukrainian forces in the eastern Donbass region of the country.
Pope Francis told reporters today he's considering traveling to Ukraine. More than 4 million people have fled that country. Thousands have arrived at the border between Mexico and the U.S. That border will reopen to asylum seekers May 23rd, when the Biden administration will stop enforcing Title 42, the Trump-era policy that barred asylum seekers amid COVID-19 concerns. Andres Mejer is an immigration attorney in Texas and says regardless of where people are coming from,
no matter what they do, they're not going to be prepared for the number of individuals that are going to be presenting themselves.
Will Smith resigned from the Motion Picture Academy and again apologized for slapping Chris Rock during Sunday's Oscars. He said he's prepared to accept further punishment, but in terms of his career, Michael Ordoa, a contributor at the Los Angeles Times envelope, says,
I think that pretty much every studio in town still wants to be in the Will Smith business. The guy's his movies have made something like $6.5 billion worldwide. And this is a business.
Sarah Palin, former governor of Alaska and vice presidential candidate, has entered the race to fill the state's lone seat in the House of Representatives. There's a special election this summer. Tonight, it's men's college basketball's Final Four in New Orleans, Kansas, and Villanova. Then, for the first time ever in the NCAA tournament, Duke and North Carolina. You're listening to ABC News.
Great news from Rocket Mortgage. You could unlock more cash than you realize from your home's equity with a cash-out refinance today. In fact, in the last year, average home values have gone up nearly 20%. That means you could unlock thousands of dollars. And with Rocket Mortgage, you could unlock all that cash in less than 3 weeks. But you've got to act right now before rates go up, because nobody knows how long these low rates will last. Put your hard-earned money to work. Make your life better. Build a home office, remodel your kitchen, or simply save that cash for a rainy day. Today's rate on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.25%, 3.48% APR, so you can lock in a great low monthly payment. When you're looking to unlock the cash in your home, Rocket can. Call 833-8ROCKET today or go to rocketmortgage.com to get started. That's 833-8ROCKET or go to rocketmortgage.com. Rocket.
Rates current as of 12/12/21. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030. Call 800-490-1233 for disclosures and cost information.
Republican Congressman Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina says in his statement, quote, I will not back down to the mob. He's been under criticism from many in his own party after he made unsubstantiated claims involving drugs and sex. ABC's Rachel Scott has more.
House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, who has been reluctant to discipline other members for making outrageous comments, summoned Cawthorn to his office for a scolding.
He's lost my trust. He's going to have to earn it back. He's got a lot of members very upset.
McCarthy telling reporters Cawthorn did not tell the truth.
Then when he comes to tell me, he says, he thinks he saw maybe a staffer in a parking garage from 100 yards away.
Sources say the Republican leader asked Cawthorn to publicly apologize, but so far, Cawthorn has refused.
3 paying passengers and a retired astronaut are heading into space this week in a first-of-its-kind mission, says ABC's Gio Benitez.
We're just days away from that historic launch to the International Space Station, the first all-private crew to the ISS, a 10-day mission with the private space company Axiom. Former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria is the commander.
This is opening a new era in human spaceflight.
Going with him, mission specialists Eitan Stiba and Mark Pathy and pilot Larry Connor, all entrepreneurs spending tens of millions to launch aboard a SpaceX Crew Dragon.
That launch scheduled for Wednesday. This is ABC News.
research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Liberty, 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 liberty.
Brian Clark, ABC News.
Now, back to Straight Talk on retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
That's right. We're back for hour 2, as I like to call it, the hour of power, because it's mostly driven by your questions, we hope. 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Welcome back, babe.
Thank you. Thank you. I am here.
You're always here. I know that. We did receive a text from one of our listeners. Your newsletter says Social Security is not adjusted according to pensions. I thought some years ago I read Social Security info that it changed or it could. How am I confused? Well, I think our texter may have been confused because there are certain pensions, usually defined benefit pensions, that can be offset by Social Security benefits. Not all pensions are. So that's where the confusion may have been.
Or also, I think there are a couple of pieces here. One, if you contributed to a pension plan that excluded you from contributing to Social Security, for example, if you were a teacher and involved in peers, then you're going to be subject to a windfall exclusion of your Social Security benefit. Or on the flip side, some companies are generous in that they will give you an elevated pension amount until your Social Security kicks in, then decreasing your pension amount by the difference of your Social Security benefit.
Thank you. You're so bright. That's why I called you daughter. What can I say? It's all good. Again,
more equal daughter, right?
More equal. A wee moan that can live longer and work longer, so it's all good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Before we get much further or deeper, or actually even going back to our friends Jerry and Joni, we did talk about that. There are really 5 game plans that we're looking at during each coaching session with our clients. There's the retirement income game plan, which is set up for folks when they're both together. There's obviously the survivor game plan. There's the Social Security claiming strategy game plan, which is really a subset of that plan, really of both of those plans. We're also looking at long-term care planning, and then obviously estate planning, which is how do we pass those assets on to the people we love in a tax-efficient way. And I guess what I'd like to do is modify something that you had said a little early, babe. Many people looked at this recent change in the, we'll call it IRA passing on, legacy of IRAs, as something that was negative. But to me, I think this is really maybe the most important and fundamental change that's happened in the last 25 years. We're now in a situation where we as IRA owners, and frankly large ones, because we know that IRAs didn't even come into account until 1990, and really 401ks didn't really start to take grip until that time, where companies decided they were going to begin to get rid of their pension benefits and replace those with employer-contributed benefits or employee-contributed benefits, that we now are in a situation where we can actually put our thumb on the planning for future generations. And this is something that most parents, grandparents, didn't really think about. Somebody passed away, mom or dad did. Most folks, unless, of course, they were business owners or maybe wealthy or farmers, landowners, you're thinking about maybe you're going to get maybe a CD, a couple of CDs, maybe a house. It's not the way it is anymore. We're looking at hundreds of thousands, millions in many cases, some tax-free, some not tax-free, assets passing on to future generations, and having the ability now, and really frankly, being forced to think about this and begin to do planning, it's awesome. I mean, to me, it's just awesome. And I know that from our experiences with beneficiaries that we've seen in the last 2 years since this tax change happened, they've been really positive, haven't they?
Yes, they have.
And, you know, what we're seeing is that these kids or grandkids, you know, they're taking portions of these assets. They're actually making retirement plan contributions that, frankly, they weren't able to do so because of demands on their money. There are also, in many cases, cleaning up current debt or other obligations that they have because really, you know, I guess I want to say 20 months or so ago when I was thinking about this, you know, I realized that under normal circumstances, my children, one of them being here on the other side of the line, isn't going to be receiving assets from me and my wife, and probably for 20 plus years. She's probably going to be close to being a mature adult, i.e. my age. And, you know, her children, our grandchildren, if they exist, they're going to be in their 20s and 30s and broke, just like most kids are. So having an opportunity to do some planning in advance, being able to secure, I think, the wealth for future generations is something that, frankly, was really just limited to the rich.
And see, I used to think of this as a punishment for actually conceding to your haranguing about grandchildren. But if I look at it from our current, you know, I've had the opportunity to work with quite a few clients now, and it seems that the baby boomer generation has quite a few pulls on their money, not just wanting to retire sooner, but they're the first generation that had to create their own retirement assets as opposed to having those defined benefit pension plans. They, in many cases, have aging parents that need assistance. They also have children that might need assistance at this point as well. Being able to maybe lift some of that, you know, as the parent, being able to lift some of that burden by passing some of those assets on to the grandchildren or your children's children, and lifting some of that burden from them could be a huge game changer for your children as well. They no longer have the burden of potentially paying for a college education, or maybe it's something less significant in terms of a monetary amount, but very significant in terms of changing the course of your grandchildren's life, being able to provide the car or pay off a debt that really alleviates.
You know, private school.
Private school. Right. So maybe it's not even something that is an immediate need so much as a want, or just making things better. Maybe being able to give your children that extra cash so they can go on vacation, or so they could send their children to private school, could make a huge difference.
You're right, babe. And, you know, I would say to everyone is that your advisor should be talking to you about these things. They're extremely important. What are you paying them for? I mean, really what it gets down to, this is really an opportunity for you to fundamentally change the mathematics of your children, grandchildren possibly, sometime in the future. And this is an opportunity that, frankly, we're not letting our clients pass up. I think it's great, and we're getting great responses. And as you know, honey, I've named the multi-generational discussion that a lot of times comes out of this, where we're talking to our clients and their children, which is called "You're Not Getting All the Money."
That's the official title of the plan. You're not getting all of the money.
Exactly. And the clients like to chuckle about that, but it really is true. And we've found from our discussions
I'm trying to change my perspective on that as a beneficiary of the "You're Not Getting All of the Money" plan.
Okay, well,
your children might start thinking of it as "You're not getting all of the money, but you don't have to spend your money" plan.
Well, that, and the neat part is we're finding that this also takes a lot of pressure from those parents to having to and wanting to distribute some of those assets they receive from their parents. I mean, why make that child, grandchild that is, wait till they're their parents' age, or really their grandparents' age, to receive assets. Doesn't make any sense. So this is a great planning opportunity.
Well, because we all had to wait and suffer.
Well, that's right. But again, what happened was a laws change. And when the laws change,
right.
It's really important to take advantage of these opportunities. And frankly, that's what they are. So again, talk to your advisor about that. While you were gone this week, I did have a chance to meet with a couple of our new clients or new potential clients. And to a person, they just said, you guys are the only ones talking about this. And this is so important. This is something that we hadn't even considered. And that's because you're not seeing it in the literature. You're not seeing it across the internet. But big opportunity for you, and we would certainly recommend that you take advantage of that, which is great. Honey, we did get another text in while we were talking.
Okay.
And this one came in. The question was, is it too late to contribute to a Roth IRA if we have filed our 2021 taxes? Can they be amended, and is it worth it? I'm 68 and working. My answer, I'm interested in your answer to this, but my answer is, so sad, too bad. You missed the boat on this, but the truth is you'll need it. I mean, a Roth, again, what you're talking about is contributing to a plan, the money growing tax-free. Why not just look at something that's growth invested rather than being dividend invested? And therefore, what you'll be able to do is keep down your capital gains and, frankly, be in a situation where if you don't have a Roth now, you'd have to wait 5 years to actually access that interest and or gains for them to be tax-free. So why wait? What do you think?
And I wouldn't say, I would never say it's only $7,000 because I certainly wouldn't walk by $7,000 on the street. But to your point, Dad, this isn't going to have an impact on what you owed in taxes because a Roth contribution is after tax. So you wouldn't be able to alter what you've already or what you're planning to pay the government. For last year, there are I like to call them tax-preferred vehicles or investments that you can use in an after-tax account that's not a Roth, that will not create large tax burdens for you, but you can still have that money growing and not necessarily paying the full brunt of taxes on it. Also, amending your taxes there's a cost to that, which you might not want to incur.
Yeah, and who wants the IRS looking at this more than once? I mean, to be sincere.
Right, over $7,000. You haven't missed your opportunity if you're still working. Maybe you make that contribution earlier this year so you don't miss out, and you make your $7,000 if you mentioned he's over the age of 50, that $7,000 Roth contribution for 2022, and then you won't be in the same boat next year.
Amen. I totally agree. I was going to say, before we take our first break of this hour, what I'd like to do is let's get to the healthcare part of this. And we know that our healthcare discussions are always sponsored by our very good friends
at Aetna and Anthem of Missouri.
Thank you so much for being sponsors of our show. So there are a lot of ways we could take this Jerry and Joni discussion. The biggest issue here is that Joni is a couple years younger. I think she was about 6 years younger. She was 62. Her husband was 66 and eligible for Medicare. But they got some things to think about, right?
Well, the great thing is Jerry and Joni are in a slightly unique position in that Jerry's former employer will allow Joni to stay on the health insurance until she reaches 65 and gets to her Medicare eligibility. Now, if that wasn't the case, the other nice thing is depending upon Jerry's retirement date, well, I mean, no matter when Jerry retires, we can line up Jerry's retirement date to hopefully match up to maybe an 18-month window for Joni to take her COBRA benefits from Jerry's employer and bridge herself to Medicare that way. The nice thing is that no matter what employer you work for, as long as you were on your employer's health insurance for one day, each individual participant has their own individual COBRA rights, which means Jerry does not have to take COBRA in order for Joni to access her COBRA benefits, or vice versa for that matter. In addition to that, if they happen to have had a child that was still on the policy for whatever reason under the age of 26, that child also has their own individual COBRA rights. So what we like to do as a matter of course is, one, we would obviously assist Jerry in the transition from his employer's plan to Medicare, because we know he's going to jump right onto Medicare being over 66 years old. We'll help him get enrolled with the appropriate paperwork, that Medicare Part B application, as well as the request for employment information, which proves that Jerry was on the coverage, on the employer coverage from the day he turned 65 until when he retired, alleviating any of those potential penalties that people experience for not enrolling in Medicare in a timely manner. We'll also get him an appointment with Frank, our Medicare specialist, to discuss the different options that he'll have to complement his Medicare benefits, be that a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage plan. And then what we'll do for Joni is we'll compare COBRA benefits to individual health insurance, meaning we'll look at the premium and benefits of the COBRA plan versus what we could find privately. We'll also have a conversation with Joni about what she's already spent this year, as Jerry's going to retire in this year. Has she already met her deductible? That's an important thing to consider, because even if the price is higher, if you're already in the insurance company's pocket, you don't want to start over again with a new plan. So we'll want to take a look at that. And then when Joni's ready to transition from either that COBRA coverage or an individual health insurance policy, we can get her flipped over to a Medicare policy using a slightly different process. It'll be a little easier for Joni because she'll be using her initial election into Medicare. That's when she turns 65. So she'll be able to just hop online. We have a nice step-by-step available to just guide you through that enrollment process. And then we'll have a similar conversation with Joni about what the best option to complement her Medicare benefits are.
Yeah, and as we're doing this, what's neat is that we, as you know, at the beginning of the process, we laid out their options on our electronic whiteboard. We're also then able to add in and really factor in what the cost, not only premium cost, but also what the out-of-pocket cost would be for their healthcare plan. In doing so, we really made their game plan a little bit more, we tightened it up and made it a little more complete.
Also, this seems to be one of the number one concerns for individuals that are wanting to retire before they get to 65 years old. What is the true cost of my health insurance going to be? And is that going to be the hurdle or the stumbling block for me being able to retire when I want? Being able to plug specific numbers in on a very specific timeline usually gives people the peace of mind to say this is the last piece to fall in place for us.
That's great. So let's put a little bit of a twist on this if we can, because we know that in our example, Joni was the chief home office or home officer. But let's assume Joni was actually working. That really changes the options now for her and Jerry, because Jerry would have to consider the possibility of, A, do I jump onto Joni's plan, become an active participant, which he can once he loses his coverage at retirement, or B, should he jump onto Medicare?
Right, that's an important question. Also, that question assumes that Jerry and Joni were on their own employer's plans. In a lot of cases, couples are now making the decision that, maybe one spouse works for a much larger employer. They have better purchasing power, giving them a better, a more lucrative health insurance policy. Jerry and Joni could both go back to Joni's policy if they happen to have been on Jerry's. Once Jerry retires, that will give Jerry and Joni a special election into Joni's employer's plan. They might both want to jump on. Or like you said, Dad, there's the possibility that it will be less expensive for Jerry to just jump onto Medicare, Joni going back to her or going to her employer's plan. And I will say in almost 100% of the cases, if you have access to an employer-based plan, it is going to be more beneficial for you than going privately looking at an individual health insurance policy, because most employers subsidize in part or all the premium that you'll pay for your insurance. So taking some of that money, I won't call it free money because it's part of your compensation, is important to consider, not just the benefits that are available.
And yes, honey, as you previously mentioned, also a lot of this has to do, like in Jerry's case, how much of his plan has he actually used in terms of deductibles? Because once he leaves, and if he does go over to Joni's plan as an example, he can jump off whenever he wants. He doesn't have to wait.
Exactly. And that is, sometimes, people are talk about when should I retire, like a specific date, a specific time of year. Health insurance is sometimes something that we factor in different ways. For example, if Jerry had a surgery, maybe a knee replacement in this past year, he's already met part of his deductible. He has some more physical therapy to go. He might decide to push off his retirement until all of that is completed to maximize his current health insurance benefits. The same could be true for Joni in terms of when we decide to make moves. For example, if Jerry and Joni both on Jerry's policy, Jerry retires, maybe Joni takes the COBRA benefits through the end of the year and doesn't go back onto her employer's plan until their open enrollment because she's already met most or all of her deductible on Jerry's policy.
That's great. So nice conversations there. It's fun to be able to put both of these pieces together, not only the financial side, but also the Medicare side. Make it seamless for clients, and at the same time then be able to make that, help them make those important decisions and transitions, and really factor all this into the retirement game plan.
And you know what? I don't think that you have once given out the way that our listeners can get in touch with us personally during the week.
There you go. Just give us a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008, or you can go to our website, jblfinancial.com. Click on the Contact Us section. Write us a little blurb. Our assistant, Kelly, will be happy to give you a call and arrange a convenient time for you to come in and visit with us. If you're still a little, we'll call it COVID tense, we obviously do offer telephone as well as Zoom appointments. But what we do is we would naturally ask you to get us financial information in advance so that we can make that time meaningful for both of us. Was that okay, babe?
That was great. I think it's probably time for our first break of this hour.
There you go. So Aaron and I will be right back after these messages.
This is Mariah, third generation at Newsteaders Fine Jewelry. Buying an engagement ring can be intimidating. At Newsteaders, we ensure complete understanding of your purchase. We offer a choice in both lab and mine-grown diamonds and are able to work with any budget. Let our family help educate you on your choice at Big Ben and Doherty Ferry or at wowdiamonds.com.
The Big 550 KTRS and Baldwin Dental Care celebrate Women's History Month by recognizing the often overlooked contributions made by women in U.S. history. Women like Lori Kalumpny, one of the best female soccer players to come out of the St. Louis area. Lori is a national champion, Olympic gold medalist, and a World Cup winner. Thank you to all the women who have made a huge impact to our history, our culture, and our society. From Baldwin Dental Care and the Big 550 KTRS.
Jennifer Blome here. You know, Wendy and I discovered Baldwin Dental Care last year, and we love it. Dr. Kim and her staff remember exactly what it's like to be a patient, and they'll take good care of you. There's a new patient special right now. A comprehensive exam, cleaning, 4 x-rays, and oral cancer screening for $89 or $100 credit on your account. They have Saturday and evening hours. Google Baldwin Dental Care. Baldwin Dental Care is a proud sponsor of Women's History Month right here on the Big 550.
Yachty and Waino are back for another season in their legendary careers. On Saturday, April 9th, celebrate their long-standing battery with one of 4 mystery jerseys. That day, the Cardinals host the Pirates, and 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a mystery jersey featuring either Yadier Molina or Adam Wainwright, courtesy of Coca-Cola and Walmart. Which one will you get? Find out on Saturday, April 9th. For tickets, visit Cardinals.com.
2021 marked the 50th and final season of Mike Shannon's legendary career in the broadcast booth. Sunday, April 10th, when the Cardinals host the Pirates, 25,000 fans ages 16 and older will take home a one-of-a-kind Mike Shannon bobblehead. Kick off the 2022 season and honor the longtime voice of the Cardinals with this commemorative bobblehead thanks to Phillips 66. That's Sunday, April 10th, the Cardinals, the Pirates, and the Shannon bobblehead. Get your tickets at Cardinals.com.
Tony here from Appliance Discounters. You've heard my sister and me talk about our in-stock appliances at our large warehouse. Well, guess what? We've expanded.
We have doubled our warehouse size to 80,000 square feet of fully stocked name brands like GE, GE Profile, and Cafe.
Whether you need your appliances right away or you want to buy them now and have us hold them for a future project, Appliance Discounters is your place to go.
Full shopping experience online or at any of our locally owned showrooms, and our warehouse will be ready. And as always,
our savings are your savings.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, it's 10:30 on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the retirement coach.
Glad to see you're back with us, babe. We're willing, we're waiting, we're wanting to answer your questions at 931-5877 or 84126 from I can't believe somebody gave me this long of a text line. This is a tough one. I got to go like up and down and whatever, so I'm going to try this one. Love your show.
Bear with us.
That's right. I turned 72 this year and therefore was planning on receiving an RMD this year. If the House version recently passed goes through, I'm going to paraphrase this because you can get a little crazy, and the Senate does the same thing, what should I do? Will they let me postpone my RMD? Do I have to take it this year? Big shout out to Erin. Come back from Florida because your dad is messing these texts up. She is the ultimate rock star. I think that's nice from some of our clients.
That is so sweet.
So I do appreciate that, and I would also be in agreement. You are a rock star, babe. Love you, and
this is just kind.
It's nice. So if you're supposed to take your RMD this year, I would recommend that you take it. Because by December 15th, you know, Missy's, our administrator says, we're going to be chasing you down to take it, right?
Well, also the nice thing is, let's say, for example, that you take your required minimum distribution and they change the laws around and you were able to bypass it or take less, whatever the case may be. Our broker-dealer does allow us to return those funds.
Right.
So,
and probably there's going to be a provision in there that would say if you already yanked it, you can put it back in anyways.
Right. So it might be overarching, not just a per broker-dealer situation. We can only speak to what our firm allows us to do. But if you were someone that took money, took it incorrectly, didn't want to take it, we are able to return those funds. So I would say that if you have set up a plan to take your required minimum distribution, for example, you want to pay something off specifically, or you decided, hey, I want to take it this month because I'm going to go on this vacation, then go ahead and take it. And if something shakes out where we can return it, then we'll absolutely make that happen.
931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. We're inside of 30 minutes right now of the show left today, so we'd love to hear from you. I guess something that I'd like to, maybe that goes unsaid, but hopefully is felt by our listeners. We love this. I mean, retirement planning is the ultimate war game, at least in my mind. We've got the Internal Revenue Code, we've got Social Security, we have passing on assets, we have healthcare issues. This is fun. It's fun to help folks plan and get the results that they want. And, we haven't even discussed, and we certainly went on the air, them having that investment model, if you want to call it that, investment portfolio, which is designed then to deliver the results. for us, it's always been we have to get the math right. Right, babe?
Absolutely. The math has to come first. It's like you have to know where you're going to go before you devise your plan to get there. Also, you have to know what you're building before you know what tools you need to use. So the investment products, they're just tools to get us to where we want to go. We have to know where we're going first. We have to know what we're building first before we can, start implementing those tools or those plans.
It's interesting because that's why so many of these commercials, the things you see, I don't know, I would even say radio shows, they're just off the mark. You don't need $1 million necessarily to retire. One commercial, right?
Sure.
Everybody's income, their life is a different size. They're also influenced by things like, have you paid off your mortgage? Do you have a pension that's available? We have some clients, have you accumulated real estate properties that are now in a position that you've taken the time, they're paying for themselves because you've paid off those obligations? Are you going to continue consulting? And maybe another big one is, where are you going to live? It's so fun. It's a grandkids discussion. And honey, you've seen me do this, and I know you've probably done this with other clients as well, which is when we hear they're having a grandchild, or even if it's not the first one, maybe it's the second or the third, whatever it might be. Oh, and by the way, honey, I just want to let you know, I've come off of I always wanted to have 10, but I think I'll settle for 8. That's fair, don't you think?
What happened to the last 2?
Oh, I'm just giving you a pass on those. Now, if you can negotiate this between you and your sister, I'm cool with that too. But 8 would be nice. It's bigger than a basketball team, all that kind of stuff. What can I say? It's like,
true. And then if there were a few duds in there, you got some replacements.
Well, it's good to have. Yeah, it's good to have spares, right? Nothing wrong with that. But
I'll get right on that.
No pictures, fine. But would love to make some announcements on the radio, because we know that our listeners, they want to know.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's your main priority.
Inquiring minds want to know about all this good stuff. But,
I appreciate this, because I will now get a flood of your dad is crazy, don't rush, everything is great, text and messages and calls and emails.
Well, you'll give me a list. We'll fire all them. It's not a big deal.
That is, they're mine forever.
I understand that. But, the point I was trying to get to was, we do often get calls from clients that are saying they've just had grandchildren or they're et cetera. And
they usually call me, because that creates,
well, I don't hate on them.
sadness over there.
Exactly. But they're moving. It isn't unusual for parents, especially if they're retired, to move to be closer to those children. And maybe for some, it's maybe move away because they don't want to become babysitters. Negotiating what that's going to be can be different from every family. But this is fun. It's just so much fun to be involved and to be invited into people's lives. And that's really what, as far as I'm concerned, I know you feel the same way. Being an advisor is what it's all about. Being there for the joy, being there for the sorrows. We're there for both of them, and that's fun. But helping folks create that game plan, having them leave, we hope they leave that coaching session with more clarity than they had before. That's what the goal is. Opening their eyes to different options and opportunities that they didn't consider. That's why you have an advisor, somebody that's there, that's frankly your cheerleader, right? And hopefully,
absolutely.
And hopefully making you some money. So good. And again, while we're waiting for your calls today, it's a little quiet. Maybe folks are they're listening or they're laughing.
They're just waiting for me to come back to read their text.
Amen. I love that idea. And again, I'll give out the number 931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. Let's go to the mailbag, because we have had a bunch of mailbag questions this week. Let's take a few of these if we can. Sarah recently sent us one. I like the name Sarah. What do you think about Sarah, honey?
What is more haranguing? Does it end?
No, it's not. No, I'm just asking. Sarah was the name of your great grandmother on my mom's side. So you can always use that
now
name.
you've just made me defensive.
No, okay. Well, it's still,
always on the defensive.
It's just one that you can put in play if you want. Okay. So Sarah asked, can you borrow money from your IRA and then pay it back later? And the answer is yes, you can, Sarah, but you gotta be careful.
You have to do it within 60 days. You can only do it one time per year from one account.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal because once you've made the distribution, if you do it incorrectly, then you'll have a very unpleasant surprise in April when you owe taxes.
Yes, and this is certainly a situation that we get involved in with our clients because we are investing our IRA money, but it's also extremely important that you consult your tax advisor about this so they know what's going on.
Absolutely. Right. Also, it's important that, there might be some other avenues to consider before borrowing from your IRA. You might want to consider those first. We often find this is maybe, Dad, you just talked about selling houses to be closer to people. That's often a time in which people are trying to bridge a gap, a very short window, because, again, it has to be within 60 days.
Yeah, I know, because, the house next to me went up for sale. I wanted to buy it, a lot for you and do it. You decided to go to Eureka. What the heck?
Well, we've got a lot of clients out there, and we potentially could be, have a mini JBL Financial South location, Southwest location. Right.
Well, I just need the helicopter pad. We did receive a text in, which was a nice one. I haven't heard the show in quite a while. It could be your mother. Okay. I'm very impressed with Erin. Honey, you're not supposed to write these, okay? She is most knowledgeable. You must be very proud. And naturally, I'm extremely proud of her. She's not just knowledgeable, but as you can tell, she's a fabulous advisor. So,
these texts are making me blush.
That's
guys,
okay.
Too sweet.
Well, you can blush in person if you want. If they decide
I'll be back. I never heard someone miss me so much for not even a week.
Exactly. And one way we won't miss you is you've come in for a coaching session, right? Just call us 314-863-0008, 314-863-0008, or you can always send an email to Erin at jblfinancial.com. And by the way, folks, just so you know, you get to see Erin. She's kicked me out of coaching sessions, so you've taken over the website. What can I say?
Is there a pattern emerging?
Yeah, you kicked me out of my chair here. I'm not giving it back. I'm just letting you. I've got Tim. I've got Eric. They voted. It's over. Okay? I'm keeping my chair. Even if people write me these long texts, I have to read like upside down and inside out and all that kind of stuff, which is good. Cool.
I think the listeners will have a different opinion of that if we put it to a vote. Julie asked a really great question because we get quite a few questions about the cost of investing. Yes. So Julie asked, will I be charged a commission if I buy stocks inside of my Roth IRA?
The answer is if you're in a brokerage account, yes. If you're in
right.
If you're in an advisory account, the answer is no. You get charged a fee.
Correct. Or, if you are using a discount brokerage service, you might just be paying ticket charges, which is a little different than a commission. But there are, with every form of investing, there are generally some kind of fee, commission, or expense associated with it, which is why it's important to compare those when making investment decisions.
Yes, it is.
Both short and long term.
That's cool. So David just wrote us. Good question. I'm currently working. Aaron likes that. Okay. However, my wife is not.
I like that even more, David.
That's like the natural order of selection here, right? The husbands work and the wives don't. Okay.
Women create life. That's enough work.
Okay. I'm not even going there, honey. Thank you for opening that door.
Wouldn't want you to.
Okay. Is she able to contribute to an IRA? Curious question, because the answer is
maybe.
No. If she doesn't have earned income, she can't contribute to an IRA. However,
but David's working.
There you go. But David, you are. And assuming that you and your spouse are under the earned income limit, you can make a tax-deductible traditional IRA contribution or...
on her behalf.
Yes, a spousal
IRA.
Or a spousal Roth IRA. You may even be able to do a Roth IRA for you as well. Got to check with your tax advisor on that one. Did I miss anything there, babe?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, that sounds great. You know, while we're waiting for your calls at 931-5877, we're down to about the last 10 minutes of the show, which is kind of cool. We'd love to hear from you. 84126 on the previously controlled Aaron text line.
Don't worry, guys. I'll be back next week.
I've got like a stranglehold on this thing. I'm just letting you know I'm not giving it up.
Well,
as
they
much
actually
as I
want to
love
hear
you.
the text that they send in read aloud, so I'll be back next week.
Okay. So here's a good one. We had, and Stacy just recently asked this question. I think it's fun. This is a text that we do receive. And she told us her name, which is kind of fun. I just started a new job. What should I do with my old employer 401k plan? And this is a big debate. Do I leave it? Do I take it? Do I move it? Do I roll it into an... What do you think?
Well, my first inclination would be to take your 401k plan and move it into your new 401k, so have it follow you. That way you don't lose it along the way, depending upon how much was in there. They may force you to move it somewhere if it was less than $5,000, but if it was more than $5,000, you have the option to leave it. However, I think it makes things cleaner. It also makes it easier to manage if everything is together. Also, this way, you're most likely in the lowest cost investing environment versus moving it into a traditional IRA.
Yes, I very much agree with you. And if you do have a advisor that's associated with your new plan, he or she should be more than willing to and wanting to provide you advice on or education on what options you do have available. It's pretty simple to go to your new company's plan administrator, ask for a transfer form, sign it, include a copy of your last statement from your previous employer's 401k, and have that transferred. And if you have a current advisor for other assets, he or she will probably be willing to give you assistance on those. My thought is we want to synergize the investing between company-sponsored plans and non-company-sponsored plans, right?
Right, because it's all your money. It just happens to be in different buckets.
Yes. And what's cool is that, at least as far as my feeling is that your IRA, your 401k, because they're pre-tax investments and they stay in there making trades or changes or rebalances or whatever it might be to synergize your plan, it doesn't cost you anything from a tax perspective. You can continue to rebalance those plans and get things in sync. When you obviously have after-tax assets, whether they're in a transfer on death account or in a joint account or in a trust account, for you to rebalance those, there can be tax complications. So your IRA really can be a fabulous rebalancing tool. And consolidating those, like you said, honey, people, we've had a situation before where we've had a client that left an employer 12, 15 years ago, and for whatever reason, they never moved the money. And
sometimes it's still your money as long as you have the ability to track it down, because employers can change providers. Companies are bought and sold. And if your plan is lost in the mix, you have to be able to identify your portion of it in order to get at that, to get to that money. So it's important to try and, keep an eye on all those assets, because even if it was around 20 years ago, you still worked for it. That was still part of your compensation. You don't want to just leave it behind.
You know, and it is curious because we do see clients. Sometimes we initiate these, not often, but we do see clients, and we're told that, or even prospective clients that we're working with that haven't retired, that their companies are changing plan sponsors. And when that happens, usually your 401k plan assets go into a 30-day blackout period where you can't make trades and you can't do anything because they're in that transition period. You have some interesting choices there. You know, is my 401k invested the way that I want it? Are the options that I have expense effective? You know, that's another big thing. When I look at the old plan versus the new plan, are the fees the similar or are they more? I mean, why would you want to move assets into a more expensive plan, especially if you're buying the same stuff, right? Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
And, you know, at the same time, you may have a new plan that's offering maybe some kind of cooler options, which is maybe a target date maturity plan, where, as Aaron likes to call it, set it and forget it. You know, you have a company that's actually actively managing those assets for you towards a target retirement maturity date. Naturally, there's some internal changes happen, but they keep it rebalanced for you. And I would say that in a lot of cases, and I probably saw this at least 3 times this week, and I know you see it too, babe. You know, we see clients that are mixing these target date maturity plans a lot of times with other individual selections, and not to create, let's say, a tactical, you know, concentration in an area. It's just because they don't really get it. What do you think?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly. And what happens is that, you know, we talk about synergizing your 401k so that you're not creating excess duplication. Like in a case where somebody's chosen one of these target date plans as an example, and then adding other funds around it, or cash or bonds or whatever it be, you're really defeating the purpose of that plan, of that particular targeted investment. And
also, you tend to be paying, most likely you'll be paying a little bit more in fees, because those some of those wrapped accounts already have fees built in to do that rebalancing and that structure for you. Now you're paying for that, and then you're adding more on top of it.
Yeah, because, again, most of these are a funds of funds approach, and that's cool. And I guess for me, I'm thinking about this like, you know, hey, if I can have the manager who understands the relationship between his funds maybe a little bit better than I do, creating that model and keeping it rebalanced, I mean, what a great tool to use. So why would I want to mess it up by trying to add on, you know, add on to it or along the side of it when I'm not really looking at holdings and those type of things. Things that we look at because this is our business. And, you know, if we're looking to create emphasis as an example, you know, we're not adding a large cap fund. What we might be looking at is maybe a specific sector, possibly, right? If we want to add some emphasis in those areas. So I think it's real important to take advantage of professional advice where you have it there. At the same time, if you're working with an advisor, really having them pull these things together for you. I mean, make them do it. That's what you pay them for. Whether managing those assets or not, so that you can set it and then forget it, right? Which is good.
Absolutely.
Cool. I know that we've got a couple of other emails that we've recently received. Let's go to the mailbag on this one. Kevin has asked us whether there are any penalties for rolling over a 401k plan assets into a Roth IRA.
Well, I mean, what's your definition of a tax penalty?
Well, actually, it was just a penalty. Tax penalty is, you're right, anything you have to pay when you don't need to pay, right?
Exactly. I mean, so 401ks, unless you have a Roth 401k, are considered pre-tax vehicles. So you always want to utilize another pre-tax vehicle to accept those funds. So you would want to use a traditional IRA. Now, if you've made the decision that you would like to essentially convert those pre-tax assets to after-tax assets, you won't have any additional penalty, meaning there's no you haven't done anything wrong by moving assets from a 401k into a Roth. However, every dollar that you move from your 401k, which is pre-tax, to your Roth, which is after-tax, you're going to be paying taxes on in that year.
Yes, and I think I was going to say I think people may not realize that to truly do an effective rollover, or if you want to call it conversion to a Roth IRA, those taxes have to be paid.
And
outside.
You really want to pay them outside.
Exactly, because if you don't, as an example, let's say you had $100,000, you decide to convert that to a Roth. Well, if you're in a 20% effective tax rate, $20,000 is going to Uncle Sam. So that means only
$80,000.
Right, and if you really don't want you really want 100 to go, then you got to cough up 20,000.
Well, also if you take the 20,000 from what you're converting, you've lost the growth on that $20,000 forever, because you took 100 from your 401k, you only moved 80 into your Roth. Well, now the size of your assets is automatically 20% less.
Yes, and you've also lost the interest and future earnings on the taxes that you paid.
Right.
Did I mention that I'm not really pro on Roth conversions?
Well, also, I think that I don't think I'm as adamant as you about my opposition to Roth conversions, but I think it's important that they are timely. Just like we were chatting with a previous caller, I think it was Michael in the first hour. Why would you do your Roth conversions in your highest income earning years? Why not wait? It's not going anywhere. Let's pay the least amount of taxes as possible in order to do these conversions if it's something that you're very committed to.
Yes, and in Michael's case, because we know that he was Medicare eligible and probably enrolled in Medicare at 67, a large conversion coupled with the income that his wife is currently earning and his Social Security benefits could put him in a situation where his Medicare
taxes 2 years down the road.
That's right. Medicare Part B can get messed up. So
right. So there are a lot of things to consider, timeliness to consider when you're doing this. It's not simply about avoiding taxes at 72. And I think during that same phone call, I think you made a great point, Dad, which is the 4% that you are required to take when you reach 72 from all your pre-tax accounts. It sounds like a lot, but it also matches up quite nicely with our 4% rate of withdrawal being considered prudent. Most individuals that we found that we work with are already taking near or at their 4% when they reach 72. So you're already paying taxes on this money. You've already been doing it as a matter of course since you retired. It's not going to have a huge impact. Now, down the line, when we get to 100 plus years old and you're taking 10% out, that might make a difference.
You're right, babe. And we did just receive a text from another listener. If my spouse works as a teacher but doesn't end up retiring because of a career change, can she get the one half of my, which I assume they refer to as a spouse benefit, on my Social Security benefit?
No, unfortunately, the spousal benefit still has the windfall exclusion for individuals that were participating in the peers retirement system.
Yeah, that's really too bad. Well,
they figured out that loophole.
Well, we have very smart listeners. And, if you are over 55, if you're considering retirement this year or within the next 5 years, and you might say, I've listened to these two rascals long enough. It's time for a coaching session. We would love to see you. It's easy to do. pick up the phone, give our office a call, 314-863-0008. Again, 314-863-0008. Or you can always send us an email, Jeff or Aaron at jblfinancial.com. And we're looking forward to seeing you next Saturday here on the Big 550 KTRS. The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Be listening next week at 9 for more Straight Talk on Retirement with your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus, on the Big 550 KTRS.